everybody, and welcome to a very special end of the year / beginning of year board game review and gameplay demo. With the year 2016 being the dumpster fire that it was, I decided that I'm going to review the board game equivalent thereof. Now, this is a game I have talked about many different times in this exact context, where it is a game that I honestly do not enjoy. I thought that I was going to like it. Thematically, it really is a lot of fun, but in the end, there was just too much mechanically wrong with it. So to sort of ring in the new year, I thought that we would have some fun and we'd just go and do this sort of catharsis of this particular game. Now, for those of you who don't know yet, the game is Dexter, the board game. First and foremost, thematically, it's a great game. The entire point of this is that everybody is playing as a Dexter facsimile, where you are going and trying to find a particular suspect, get the tools that you need in order to kill them, and then you put them into a literal tiny little plastic bag after you have done the deed, and then you're trying to get away onto the boat. Easy enough, right? And it is, don't get me wrong. It is a very simple game, and again, thematically it's very fun, but I'll get into all of those details. Again, today is supposed to be fun. We're trying to leave the dumpster fires behind, and that includes this piece of junk. So what we're going to do is I'm still going to go through all my usual sections, but with a little bit of a twist in terms of see why this is a bad game. So we're going to get started with what this game is similar to. As far as similarities are concerned, there are several that I wanted to highlight with Dexter, the board game. First and foremost is Monopoly. Yes, this game does have a lot of similarities to Monopoly. The first and biggest similarity is the fact that you are rolling dice to move around. If you roll that dice, then that is how many spaces you move. Period. Right? You also have specific directions that you are allowed to go, which means that there are also directions you are not allowed to go. Unlike Monopoly, at least in Dexter, you've got a little bit of leeway in terms of going specific things. You don't just have like a single square you're going around. However, it still has that very robotic and frankly boring feeling to it. There are a couple of exceptions to the rule of being able to stop where you want to, but I'll get into that when I talk more about the demo itself. The other major comparison I wanted to make is actually with Sorry. And for those who don't know, in Sorry, if you run into another player's pawn, then you essentially kick them back and move them back to the start. In this game, you have a very, very similar mechanic, and I will be highlighting that incessantly during my demo of this game. That said, you are essentially doing like a sort of set collection type of thing. So there's a couple of different set collection aspects to this, where you're collecting the specific tools that are listed on a card, and you're also looking at blood spatter reports, and you're trying to get like the top and bottom half of specific cards. It's kind of an interesting mechanic, and that one I do particularly like. So we do have that kind of thing. So think sort of Seven Wonders, but very, very light. It's literally, you've got top half, bottom half, and that's pretty much it. And then you've got like sort of a recipe on a card that you're trying to follow in order to find the suspect and the tools that you require. But that is more for the demo, which we are going to get started with right now. Alright everybody, we are all set up and ready to start playing some Dexter. So to start off again, I'll just reiterate that the entire point of this game is that we are trying to collect a person, the tools, and then get to the location in order to dispose of them. After we have successfully done that, the point is that we are getting to the marina so that we can take our boat and go off into the ocean. In order to do that, we need several different things though. Each player will start off with two major things. Each person gets a little baggie, which is always fun, and then we also get two of these cards, On the Prowl. The On the Prowl cards will give you all the information you need to know about the specific person or persons you are trying to hunt. So you get the person's name and the suspect number, and then you also get the tools required and the location to go to once you have collected everything. So the way that we collect the suspects is by landing on them. There are suspects spread all over the board. When you land on it, you pick it up. Even if it's not part of your cards, you still pick it up and it's, quote, in your hand or in your inventory, however you want to call it. The other thing we need are the tools. Tools are obtained at the hardware stores, which are also spread all around the board. And when you stop at a hardware store, then you're able to pick up all the tiles and you can look at them and you take one that you need or one that you don't need. It doesn't matter. You just take one and you put it in front of you. If you land on those spaces and they're empty, you don't get anything. So that's how, that's the initial setup essentially. We've got 9 tools in each hardware store and we've got our suspects spread out all over the board. Before I get into the rest of the board, I wanted to mention the other major card types that are in this game. First one being the on-the-job cards. These are the cards that we'll be collecting when we land on these white spaces that say Dexter on the job. So Dexter is the blood spatter analyst for the Miami Metro homicide, and the idea with these cards is that you are trying to collect 2 halves of individual reports. So for example, you are trying to collect 1A and 1B, and this is the example of those two. So when you put them together, then they create like a full picture type of thing. It's kind of cool. It's a neat little mechanic, and the idea with these is after you have completed one of these, then it sort of stays in your hand, and when you land on a Miami Metro Police space, then you are able to turn them in, and then you can steal any token from your opponent, no matter what. It can be a suspect, it can be a tool, whatever you want it to be. So that's how those work. The other thing that we have are the Calling Dexter cards. These are sort of the like random grab bag of cards that do all sorts of different things, and I picked out some choice ones to read off to you. Here we have miss your next turn, take a random token, go to a slice of life board space, miss your next turn. Let's see, show your opponents all of your cards and tokens. Roll again. And let's see here, trade an on-the-job card with your opponent at random. Go to the Everglades and miss your next turn. Stupid! It's ridiculous. These cards are just insane and they do all sorts of crazy, stupid stuff. But that's the entire point, right? Is that they're doing all sorts of crazy stuff. And there is the Calling Dexter space on the board, so when you land on it, you get one of these cards. Easy enough. And then you just do what it says. Most of them are very simple and straightforward. I mentioned already that when you land on something, then you just pick it up and you put it in your inventory. Essentially, we're trying to find the stuff we need for our bad guys. You only need to fulfill one of these in order to win the game and get to the marina. As far as the board itself is concerned, one key thing is that there are directional arrows. You can only go in directions that are allowed by the arrows. You have to obey those. You can't go left if it says you can't go left. If it says one way, you better be going that direction, all that kind of stuff. So essentially, it can become difficult to sort of navigate around a little bit and just frankly very, very frustrating. But, you know, what are you going to do? A couple other major spaces that are important. Most of them are fairly self-explanatory, where they say, like, miss a turn, roll again, stuff like that. There are these spaces that look like a 6-sided die. That just means that you roll again. The other big thing are the Harry's Code spaces. What you do with one of those is, if you have a suspect token that does not correspond with one of your on the prowl cards, you have to put it back face up. So that way your opponents can see who the suspect is. Okay? And that's pretty much it. That is the entirety of how the game works. The two major caveats to the roll and move. Normally, we just roll this die and we move that number of spaces. If you pass a hardware store, you're allowed to stop. Even if you have more movement. If you have all of the things necessary in order to dispose of your prey, then you are allowed to stop at that location, the specific location you need. Other than that, you have to go through. You have to keep going, and that's it. That's the really major rule. Last but certainly not least on the board spaces are these slice of life spaces. They're the little boat spaces. There's only a few of them on the board. And essentially, with those, if you land on one, then you're allowed to travel to any other slice of life board space, right? So that's pretty much how the entire game works. Now, I'm mostly just going to be playing as one character, and then what I'll do is I'll show you some of the ridiculousness that happens with this game. But effectively, we've got the search for suspect 108 and 203 for this person, and then this person is looking for 204 and 311. So let's start with red. Let's play. I rolled a 5. So let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm in the hardware store. Let's see, what do I need? I need a jumpsuit, gloves, A surgical saw. Oh, geez. Hey, look, a jumpsuit again. Garbage bags and a meat cleaver. Hey, look, garbage bags. And gloves and an apron. A welder's mask. Who needs a welder's mask? Now, obviously, all of this stuff is going to be private, so you don't actually show everybody else what you have, but that's it. So that was my first turn. I'm just going to keep playing as red for now. 1. Nothing happens. Yay. 2. Nothing happens. 3. Nothing happens. 5. Or, what else can we do? Hey, look, I can get an on-the-job card. I got 1A. Go me. God, this game sucks. I don't want to keep going. But this is what you do. This is the entirety of the game. This is what happens. So the problem is that eventually, maybe theoretically, possibly, you are going to land on the suspect spaces. And you're going to pick up a suspect. And in this case, I got suspect 0111. Rudy, right? It's from season 1 of the TV show, if you saw it. That is not one of my people, so I just put it here. Well, crap, that means I got to go all over the rest of the entire board to try to find the people that I actually need. Okay, so let's take a look. We're looking for 108 and 203. Hey, there's 202. There's 109 and 107. Hey, 102. 305. Oh my God. See, like, you have no idea where anything is. And the problem is that everything is just so random that you're not going to be able to find it easily. And anybody can do anything that just ruins it. So, right there is suspect 203. Okay? So, here, watch this. Now, the way that this happens, let's say that suspect 203 was face up, and because my opponent got him, and then they landed on Harry's code, so they had to put him back, and he's face up. So I'm like, yeah, I need that guy. I am 1 away from him. Let's roll. Dang, I got a 4. 1, 2, let's see, 3, 4. Okay, don't worry, we got this. 1, 2, 3. Wait for it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, here we go. We got it. We got it, you guys. 1, 2, 3. Hey, look, I managed to get him on my second time around, and it took me 3 turns just to pick him up. Now, imagine this. I roll a 5 instead. 4, 5. Oh, crap, calling Dexter. Well, that sucks. That is how the game works. That is what happens. And it is awful. It is just horrid. Like, there's this... Like, you just keep going around and around and around in circles trying to pick up the person that you need. It's insane. Not to mention trying to be able to find it. And on top of that, for some of the tools, there is only a single copy of it. I'll give you guys a perfect example. If you all have seen the show, then you'll be familiar with the name Miguel Prado. He was one of the victims, and it was a relatively later season. But he is the only person who needs the garrote wire as the tool in order to dispose of him. And if you can't find that stupid little thing, then you're not going to do anything. It's not going to happen. You're not going to win. But let's say that by some miracle, through all of the lost turns and the random rerolls and all of that good stuff, that you finally managed to get everything you need. I got my suspect 203, and I got my, what all do I even need? I don't even remember. Garbage bags, a meat cleaver, and a black jumpsuit. Let's pretend that these tools are the things that I need. Bam, there we go. Now, what I will do is I need to go to location number 8, which is who knows where. So I was right here. Now, location number 8, all the way on the other side of the board. Of course, obviously, because why else, right? So let's say that I'm right there, right next to location number 8. Then I roll. 5. Well, it's okay, because the other rule where you can stop yourself early is if you are at the proper location. So what you do is you show, here I have this person, I've got the suspect token, and I've got the 3 tools needed, and then you put them in your little bag, just like that. Ha! So cute, so clever. Now what I have to do is I have to make my way back over here to the marina. And in this case, what that means is that, oh shoot, see, I even went the wrong way. I wasn't allowed to go that way. Technically, I would have been going this way. But either way, that means that I have to go like wee 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 all around like that. Now, let's say, just for funsies, I am right here. I am mere spaces away from the marina. And let's say that this little situation happens. Here's my little buddy right here. He is on that one, right? And that is a reroll space. Oh, he re-rolls. Roll, 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 roll. Bam! He rolls a 3. 1, 2, 3. Uh-oh! He landed on my space. Now I am out of the game. That is how this works. If you are on your way to the marina with your bag full and finished and done, and somebody lands on the same space as you, you are out of the game. You are eliminated, you are dead. Because you got caught with the evidence. Right? That is what happens. And it's horrible. It is just awful. Right? Normally, if you land on the same space as somebody else, they just lose one of their tokens. The other thing is, if you have your full bag and you're doing all your stuff, then you actually ignore the spaces. You don't collect the cards and all that kind of stuff. You still re-roll if you need to, and you miss your turn if you miss your turn, but you don't collect the cards and stuff like that, and you don't get new tokens. Now, again, if somebody catches you, then you're out of the game permanently, and nothing can be done, and you lose. And if it's a 2-player game, then the other person who just randomly caught up with you now wins. They are the winner of the game. So essentially, that's how you play the garbage fire that is Dexter the board game. Yeah, the board looks pretty, I guess. It's pretty nice, for the most part. But again, on the board, you've got things like miss your next turn, and 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 roll again arbitrarily. And heaven forbid if you keep not being able to roll that exact number that you need in order to land on the suspect. And heaven forbid you can't find that one tool that is a single tool used for a single suspect, whatever that happens to be, then you are in big trouble, sir or ma'am. And it is just unbelievably frustrating. And again, the problem is that there's not a lot of ways that you can get stuff away from your opponents if they have picked up the things that you need. Thematically, it's pretty good though. So, bam, got that going for it. That said, I hope that you enjoyed my little review of how to play it. And here, we'll dump this guy back out and whatnot. But I hope that you enjoyed my demo for how to play Dexter the board game. But now we're going to get into a couple of pros and a fairly long list of cons. And then also just some general conclusions about it. Well everybody, I hope that you enjoyed my gameplay demo for how to play Dexter the board game. Now as I said, I'll go into a couple of pros and then a pretty big list of cons for this. So first and foremost, the biggest pro for me is the theme. I am a huge fan of Dexter, both the TV show as well as the books, and this game actually does a pretty good job of capturing the theme itself. So it feels kind of like you're Dexter-ish, right? The idea of going out and finding the tools and the suspect and all that kind of stuff. It's really interesting and it's a cool concept, and I love those little garbage bags. Like, how stupid is it? But I don't care. It's really cool. It's a neat little thing to have in a game like this. The other thing I love thematically is the fact that the creators of the game got the rights to the vast majority of the actors and actresses who played the suspects. Because what you'll see is actual images of the people, where with some of them you'll just see like the words of who they are and what they did. But for most of them, they actually got pictures of the actors, so you can be like, oh yeah, I remember that person. So it's kind of cool in that way. Again, just like making you not feel like you're in the show, but just be more immersive in terms of, we all know what this was, and that is a cash grab for this particular thing. The other major pro that I like about this game is those on-the-job cards. I think it's a really interesting mechanic, and again, blood spatter analysis is not something that's simple. It's very, very abstract. I've done a lot of videos about science of all different sorts, and this is no different. Like, it's essentially a science, and being able to put like the two halves together and do that thing is kind of cool. But then the idea of saying, oh, this is a warrant now, and you can like arrest the other person and you're taking some of their tokens, just seems a little bit too much of an overstep in terms of the abstractness of what's going on. But again, it's a cool, interesting thing that makes the game feel a little bit different. That said, the overarching biggest con for this entire game is the randomness. I mentioned that several times during my demo as well as before when I was talking about it, where there is just too much that you cannot plan for. There is so little strategy in this game. It's just ridiculous. You know, you might be able to land on a hardware store on the first turn and you find that one item that is exclusive to the person that you need. You might find all 3 items for the person that you need in a single hardware store, and then right around the corner happens to be that person's suspect token. It could happen. It very easily could happen. Those stacks are big. We've got 9 tools in each hardware store, and you can essentially just go around the block several times, and then you're just ready to finish the game. Like, there is so little that can potentially go on, whereas by the other token, you can end up having, you know, your location is up here, and then that one exclusive tool is over here, and the suspect is down here. And you literally have to trek the entire board just in order to find it. And again, one of the other big things when it comes to the randomness is actually landing on the suspects. That's why I love the fact that they took the thought of being able to have you stop at a hardware store or at a location after you've gotten everything. I don't understand why they didn't do it for the suspects. It makes no sense, because they really should have. And again, along the same vein of that are the Calling Dexter cards. They're just so random, and there's such a huge swing with what they can do. On some of them, you miss a turn. On others, you're trading materials with another player. Whereas with some of them, you just arbitrarily draw 2 cards. And then on some of the other ones, you re-roll and you get to go again. Like, there is such a huge gap between the good that can happen with those cards and the bad that can happen with those cards. Same thing with just arbitrarily landing on the board. You know, you just randomly land on a space and you lose your turn. And like you guys saw in my demo, like you roll a 1 and, you know, if you get unlucky, you roll it 3 times and you just land on a bunch of arrow spaces and you literally do nothing for rounds and rounds and rounds and rounds. Right? That said, it generally moves fast, at least. It's a relatively quick game, which is kind of nice. But, oh, for crying out loud, it's just ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense. Like, there's so much wrong on fundamental board game levels with this. It's just really frustrating. Not even to mention the fact that when you are finished, when you are done and have all your stuff and you're going to the marina, if you get caught, then you lose. And you're just eliminated from the game entirely. If you're playing with 2 people, the other person wins. If you're playing with more than 2 people, then that means the game keeps going until there is 1 person left standing. Can you imagine winning that way? You win because the other people got caught? Like, it's embarrassing. It really is. It is not good game design. That's what this boils down to, is that there are so many poor choices with basic game design that this made, and that's why it just frustrates me so much. Like, you can't move omnidirectionally. I mean, sure, I understand, you just go like back and forth and back and forth and back and forth or whatever, but for crying out loud, give me something more than, you know, I have to go around the entire block before I can get back to a specific token I need, or something like that. Like, it's just insane. And some of those places are so far out of the way that you essentially have to snake all the way around the board just to get to it. It's so annoying on so many levels. It's just, thematically, yes, it's absolutely amazing, but the thing is that also thematically, it's really not appropriate for kids, although I think it even says ages 17 and up. And the problem is, it's also not appropriate for adults who have a functioning brain, because it is just a badly designed game. And even if you are a big fan of Dexter, which again, I am a big fan of Dexter, you might like it. It might be okay for like a few plays, or, you know, just like a fun thing to take out at random times, whatever it happens to be. It might be okay, but if you want something with any sort of depth, any sort of strategic planning and capability of, making decisions that actually make a difference in the way that the game turns out, this is not the game for you. It really isn't. So my vote is put this into the dumpster fire that was 2016, and we'll all move on into 2017 collectively. Sound like a plan? Excellent. That said, I do hope that you enjoyed this video. Obviously, this is a very unique and different sort of review video for me because I've never done one on a game I don't like. Very curious what you guys have to say about it, both the game itself as well as what you think about the format. But I hope that you had a very safe and wonderful and happy new year, and that 2017, for all of us, the universe gives us a little bit of a break and we have a halfway decent 2017. That said, thank you so very much again for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope to hear from you guys in the comments about anything and everything about this video, and I will see you next time.